Hi, Dr. Alex here, and welcome to a video I wasn't even sure I'd ever be able to make, but I'm very pleased to report that I am, and pretty obviously am doing so because I'm sitting here talking to you right now with the title of Episode 2, The New Who Review, which is my opportunity to review yet more independent and high-quality Doctor Who productions which are out there, independent of the somewhat lackluster, less than stellar quality output by the BBC currently under the stewardship of Jinball. Did I say that wrong? Anyway, but let's not dwell on the lesser quality output on the small screen right now. Let's instead look at the New Who, which I'm going to review, as the title kind of gives away. As you may recall, in the New Who Review Episode 1, I talked almost exclusively about the excellent hard-working YouTuber Beware and his ongoing series, which was entitled Season 13, where he had an entirely new Doctor, a very young, dynamic Doctor, running around with new companions, doing new adventures, and he is still producing that. Now, he's run into some production problems. He has the blessing and the curse of having a larger production team than I ever have to deal with. I mean, to be fair, it's me and my editor and co-star, and that's basically it. And occasionally the odd guest star I need to accommodate to work into this series. But I don't have to leap through anywhere near the same number of hurdles, or leap over the same number of hurdles and through the same number of hoops it is when you're having to deal with such a large production team as he is having to do. Nevertheless, although there have been some delays, he is still producing his own awesome independent Doctor Who series, and I highly recommend, again, you go and check it out. It has unusually high production values and well-written episodes, in stark contrast, again, to what Chimble's managed to produce. Anyway, moving on, because I've already done his review. I now can review more alternative Doctor Who from two sources. Full disclosure, sources who I know and indeed am working with right now, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And no doubt they've had yet another one of my seamless jump cuts where the microphone has just jumped from one hand to the other because my arm was getting tired and I've just swapped it over. Anyway, now with the new hand and arm employed, let's talk about the first New Who I'm reviewing, and that is by Old Media Guy. Now, hopefully you've come across his material. He has some excellent videos covering a variety of old media topics, so stuff that we have seen before in the past in production on theatre, television and film, but which is of a high quality and is worth not forgetting about. So I applaud and admire his efforts to preserve old media, and in fact I've even kind of snuck into doing a bit of that myself, but I'm not going to talk about that because it's not about me, it's about him. Anyway, so let me just grab the amazing new volume that I've bought from him and read and I'm now reviewing. Ta-da! Here it is. So we have the amazing Sarah Jane's Last Adventure, which, yes, I've read it. It is, I would say, a modest but perfectly respectable sized novel. I have seen novels of that sort of width from authors I admire very greatly, and I think no less of them just because it's not the size of something that could cause a coffee table to collapse. So this is a really nice sized novel, available on Amazon. It is called Sarah Jane's Last Adventure, and I think the title kind of gives it away. So this is obviously Doctor Who through and through. Again, more than can be said of perhaps the actual mainstream productions right now. And much like with my own Season 12 and Season 13 and upcoming Season 14, it has a version of the 12th Doctor. Not necessarily the same version of the 12th Doctor that I've been using, although it is almost certainly a version of the 12th Doctor that is the one that we've seen on television. It is basically, it's the Peter Capaldi Doctor. It is in no way necessarily linked to the series I've been producing, even though I've also been using the 12th Doctor in a slightly altered form, but still looking the same. Anyway, this is, again, using the 12th Doctor, I would say, more effectively than he was sometimes used, even under Capaldi's own run. This story is a very somber tale. Now, the version I just held up is the paperback version, and you can see the cover is a very sort of grim Londonscape, sort of using grayscale, It looks very much like the grim and gritty, realistic urban fiction of, say, the late 80s, even into the 90s, reminiscent of the last years of old original Who. And it has that feeling, that air of a dystopia, a not a million miles away from an 80s dystopia in some ways, which is kind of appropriate given the character we're dealing with, Sarah Jane, and the setting, which is, well, I don't want to do too many spoilers here, but something bad has happened to the Earth, let's put it that way. And again, I don't want to give too much plot away here, but the 12th Doctor ends up employing the services of Sarah Jane for one final time to try and put the world to rights, which is possibly one of the best uses I can think of for both characters working together. Again, without trying to give too much away, you can tell from the cover it's quite a somber story, and no one who is reading this can be unaware of the fact that Elizabeth Sladen, of course, died while still playing the role of Sarah Jane in the Sarah Jane Adventures on the BBC. And it was tragic, of course, that she died so young, relatively speaking, and that was unable to continue playing this role. This is a brilliant send-off by old media guy, who is, by the way, on the cover and on Amazon referred to as Oliver Goldblatt. That is his nom de plume, how he's writing under. But obviously it's not his real name. But that's the one in which he is publishing for the time being. So yes, in fact, Oliver M. Goldblatt, if I use the whole thing, which anyone whose brain is switched on, as I don't think mine was the first time I ever read this, that Oliver M. Goldblatt obviously gives a big, heavy nod to his YouTube presence. Anyway, as I said, this story is dark, grim, brooding, but it is pacey. It moves very quickly, as it's quite a slim novel. It does cover ground fast. And the quality of his writing and the narrative did stand out to the extent that I gladly asked him if he would like to contribute a story or two to the Doctor Season 14. And he has very kindly agreed to do so. And in fact, I have received both of his first submissions, 2 episodes for that new book and YouTube series, the Doctor Season 14. And I definitely did not make a mistake. Reading this book and then asking him to write was clearly the right thing to do, because he's provided another set of pillars to hold up the hopefully awesome The Doctor Season 14. Anyway, back to what he's already done. I strongly recommend you go to Amazon. There's a Kindle version and there's a paperback version, and I would recommend either one or both to add to your personal library, and it would make anyone's bookshelf look all the more stunning and splendid if this spine was sitting on it. I can say this with confidence because this spine is sitting on my bookshelf, so it looks good. Anyway, final words and thoughts on this book. His style is different from mine. The book is much darker, I think, than my stories tend to be. Very thoughtful, very thought-provoking, and also touches on some strong emotional resonances with the past of both the characters and the actors involved in the series. Not that I can't do that as well, but you'll have to read it to see what I really mean. We do not have the same voice, but I'm very glad that there are other voices out there to give us their versions of Doctor Who, and I'm very pleased that our voices will be heard together in the upcoming new book and YouTube series. I'm now going to seamlessly throw this to one side in another amazing jump cut. Amazing! Now, the second new Who I want to talk about today is another independent content creator who is not without experience actually working commercially and with a commercial level of competency and artistry in everything he does. And I'm talking, of course, of Zvi Lebetkin, the Rabbi from Another Planet. Now, his new Who is not in a book form, as we've just seen, nor is it in a read-to-camera story, as I've done in the past with my own literary output. No, his new Who is much more graphic in nature. And I don't mean in terms of violence and sex, although, it might be some of that, but that's not the point. He is, of course, a professional comic book artist and produces his own comic books, and 2 of them in particular have recently come to my attention because they contain some Doctor Who. So the first of these was the Imperium, which is an amazing... I think he uses the word pastiche a lot, so I'm going to use it too. Pastiche of a whole bunch of 60s television, film, and literary characters all wandering around an awesome adventure world. so many different characters that I can't refer to them all at this point, and I'm not going to, because I want to focus on the one character that is relevant, and that is there is a version of the Second Doctor, has a different name, is referred to, I can't remember what it's referred to exactly. It's something similar to the Doctor, but not the Doctor. But it's basically, because it's drawn, you can see it. It's the Second Doctor. It's Patrick Troughton's Doctor in the full dress and garb you would expect, with companions as well. So I would recommend that because it's just beautifully drawn, not by Zvi himself, although Zvi can do some amazing cartoon work, and I would recommend looking at some of his other stuff on Substack, which is where I've seen his second contribution to the Who world, which is the Ice Warriors strip, which he's publishing on Substack. I think is on the free one, but it might be on the paid one. The thing I'm certain about this because I'm on his paid Substack. So go check out his Substack. The Ice Warriors are a fantastic story in which the Ice Warriors are the central characters. So beautifully drawn. I will flash up a few images, but I don't want to do too much because, again, this might be hidden content that's behind a paywall. If it's not, well, you can go see it yourself. Go to his Substack. Join his Substack. Preferably pay for his Substack, then you get to see it if it is behind the paywall. But he has done some amazing content, which he's putting out partly for free and partly for a few shekels for you to enjoy. The Ice Warriors looks and sounds, and I know I'm only reading them, so it's in my own head, but they sound to me like the Ice Warriors, and I like the fact that the Ice Warriors are not always the baddies, even in original Doctor Who. And here you've got the full interplay of characters, both good and bad, and they're all within the world of the Ice Warriors themselves. So again, 2 new Whos I've just reviewed. Firstly, the amazing old media guy, Oliver M. Goldblatt, on his novel, Sarah Jane's Last Adventure. And then the Rabbi from Another Planet, his amazing graphic novel comic book output, which is the Imperium and the Ice Warriors. Get them all. They're incredibly evocative of the things on which they are based, mostly Doctor Who, but in the case of the Imperium, the wider context of just late 60s media generally. But yes, they are gloriously drawn and written in the case of the graphic novel outputs from Zvi, and they are beautifully and thoughtfully written by old media guy Oliver M. Goldblatt in the case of the novel Sarah Jane's Last Adventure. Anyway, as I kind of alluded to earlier, they are both writing episodes, hopefully. I know old media guy is writing episodes because he's already written 2 for the Doctor season 14. Zvi is also hard at work, and I have no doubt that he's busy polishing off a story right now and hopefully providing the cover art and thumbnail images as well for the new series. So the new Who is becoming an increasingly extended world, a world that is definitely now interwoven and interplaying with each other, and I'm really glad that this growth of ideas, concepts and adventure is coming together right now. Of course, with the arrival or the return of RTD to the showrunner's position, maybe all of this alternative Doctor Who isn't going to be necessary anymore, and we can just relax and get back to doing whatever else we were doing before we started writing Doctor Who to replace the void that was currently in the place where the BBC had once had a show. But fingers crossed, RTD is going to produce something amazing, but we should provide him with a bar that is worth exceeding, and not a bar that's subterranean. So hopefully, at the very least, myself, old media guy, the Rabbi from Another Planet, Zvi Lebekin, and others, beware among them, are providing a sufficiently high watermark for RTD to go above and beyond in his new Who, which, maybe I'll review his too. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say, and hopefully this is going to be covered in jump cuts as I cut out all my mistakes, and I hope to see you in the next video, whatever that may be, and until then, everyone out there, all my viewers and listeners, take care.